Have you ever said, "Unless I see it, I won't believe it"? In this video, we'll discuss why that statement is false, especially if you believe in science. Let's get started.
The physical realm is perceived by human beings through the use of the five senses. Number one is seeing. I would have to say that if there was any of the senses that would be the least sense that I would want to lose, it would be sight. Sight would be the one that I would really want to hold on to. I'm going to share something with you here out of a website. It's from Caltech. It's called Cool Cosmos, and it is talking about sight. It's talking about light and our sight. Listen to this. When we look at the world around us, we are seeing visible light waves or visible radiation. However, there are many other forms of radiation that we cannot see with our eyes. These types include gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, infrared, microwaves, and radio waves. Together with visible light, all these types of radiation make up what we call the electromagnetic spectrum out of a complete spectrum of radiation. Light, or radiation, is made up of vibrating waves of electrical and magnetic fields. This is where the term electromagnetic radiation comes from. Electromagnetic radiation travels in waves which have different wavelengths, energies, and frequencies. The wavelength is the distance between individual waves from one peak to another. The waves do this. They go up and down like this. And then there's a distance between the top of the waves. That distance is wavelengths, okay? The wavelength is the distance between individual waves from one peak to another. The wavelengths of visible light, this is light that you and I can see with our eyes. The wavelengths of visible light range between 400 to 700 billionths of a meter. Billionths of a meter. That is really, really, really short. Okay? But the entire electromagnetic spectrum extends from 1 billionth of a meter to meters wide. Okay, and a meter is just over 3 feet. So, the frequency is the number of waves which pass a point in space each second. So you're standing still in space, the waves are going by you, and how many go by you in a second, that's the frequency. So the more that go by you in a second, the higher the frequency. Okay, I'm getting to something here. This isn't a science class either. But looking at this physical realm that God has created, that's what we're looking at tonight. Because there's two realms of existence. There's the spiritual realm and there's the physical realm. And we have to deal with both of them. Okay? The frequency is the number of waves which pass a point in space each second. All right, here we go. Visible light frequencies range between 430 trillion waves per second. So anything under 430 trillion waves per second is too low for us to see. We can't see it. And the frequency goes from 430 trillion waves per second, which is red light, to 750 trillion waves per second, which is violet light, purple. So there's a range there of 300 trillion waves per second. In that range, we can see. Anything lower than that, we can't see. Anything higher than that, we can't see. Okay, now here's the kicker. The entire electromagnetic spectrum has frequencies between less than 1 billion waves per second to more than 3 billion waves per second. Now, a trillion is a 1 with 12 zeros behind it. 12 zeros behind the 1. A trillion is 1,000 billions. Okay? You have 1,000 billions, you have 1 trillion. Okay? 3 billion billions, well, I'll say 1 for the sake of simplicity, is a 1 with 18 zeros behind it. And that is way higher than 12. You go from having 12 zeros behind it to 18 zeros behind it. Every 3 zeros is times 1,000. So times 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. We only have 300 trillion frequencies we can see, and there are billions of frequencies that exist that we can never see in the physical realm. And you believe that all just happened by chance? Okay? So that's the seeing, that's the light. Then there's hearing. Hearing is based on the frequency of sound waves, which is measured in hertz, Hertz. Human beings can normally hear sounds with a frequency between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, okay? Sound waves underneath 20 hertz we cannot hear. Sound waves over 20,000 hertz we cannot hear. Human beings can only hear about 20% of the total range of frequencies that bats and dogs can hear, and they can't hear the entire frequency range. They can hear a lot more than we can, 80% more than we can. All of these things exist even though we cannot detect them or perceive them with our eyes or our ears. Have you ever heard anybody say this? Unless I see it, I won't believe it. You ever heard anybody say that? Mm-hmm. Unless I see it, I won't believe it. Well, you better not believe science. Because there's more that you cannot see and more that you cannot hear that is real and that exists in the physical realm. This is the physical realm. Than what you can see or hear. So science has only scratched the surface. And it can only examine the physical realm. That's the only thing it has tools to examine. It's impossible for science to disprove God. Why? Because science makes observations and creates experiments and tests those experiments with tools that they have developed. Well, the problem is, what kind of tool are you going to develop that can measure and observe the spiritual realm? There aren't any. We need to have revelation from God in order to experience and in order to understand and perceive the spiritual realm. We need His revelation. All right, so there's more there about the five senses. But we experience these things through the five senses. And there are some things in the physical realm that cannot be directly perceived. Let's talk about some of the most obvious ones. Air. We can't see air, but we breathe it all the time. Well, what if somebody got the idea, well, you know what, until I can see air and you can prove to me that it exists by me seeing it, I'm just going to stop breathing. I refuse to breathe until,
It's like I can't see the wind, I can see the effects of the wind.
I can see the effects of the wind.
But I can't, it was a DC Talk song, so I listened to them way too much as a kid. But it was one of the famous lines in my mind. It's like, I can't see the effects of the wind, but I can see I said that backwards, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I can see the effects.
Right.
Or if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's around, does it still make a sound? That's still the same kind of weird
reasoning.
Weird, mess with your mind type.
Yeah, so we can't see air, but it exists. Microscopic objects. Without a microscope, we can't see microscopic objects, but they exist. Distant objects, like out in outer space. And there's some things that we don't even really see. We just record the electromagnetic radiation, and they actually create an image for us based on that radiation. Because it's so far away that we can't actually see it, we can just detect it. Okay? But listen to this. Our inability to perceive and observe these objects in the natural physical realm does not negate their existence, does it? I can't see microscopic objects, therefore microscopic objects don't exist. Right? Wrong. I can't see God, therefore God does not exist. Remember, there's more that we can't see, and there's more that we can't hear than we can see or hear in the physical realm. And there's a lot for us to see and know and perceive.
To learn more about the relationship between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, watch this video next.